Hey ladies and gentlemen, this is RedBlue115, and here I'll be showing you another tutorial of how to rig guns. That's right, you can get to rig guns for your own Minecraft animations. Model and rigging, so and what. So, what kind of guns are we talking about specifically? Well, I'm talking about the guns that are used in Black Plaza Studios' Walking Dead and Battle Royale. So for this purpose of the tutorial, I'll be showing you how to do it, as well as I was taught by the one and only TechnoM of one of the BPS riggers. So what I'm about to show you is what he taught me, and I'll be showing you the same way that he did. So first off is you got your scene, and you got your gun model. Well, it's not really much of a model, but it's just only an example. If you have not followed my modeling tutorial, you better watch that one so that you know how to make guns. Or actually model the gun. So yeah, first step is to model the gun first. You can just make the gun however you want. It's up to you. It's totally in your whole imagination. But since I just did this for this tutorial, it'll just be a quick one. So yeah, be sure to follow my modeling tutorial so you know how to model. Anyways, moving on. So the next steps, as I show on, will involve some rigging. And at the start, rigging can be very complicated. So although this part of the rigging, it's not really that complicated or hard, but just make sure you pay attention to what I'm doing so you don't get lost and that your guns will work perfectly. So yes, the more guns you make, the more you'll use the same rigging method, and the more you get used to it, and the more it'll be easy. But since this will be your first time, you have to be sure to pay attention to all the rigging process, because again, rigging is complicated and you'll get lost if you don't pay attention. Anyway, so we got our gun. Now every gun has a muzzle flare. Well, some guns. If it's like a silencer gun, it doesn't need a muzzle flare. Anyway, you'll be needing a muzzle flare so that it indicates if the gun is shooting. This is also part of modeling as well. So what does a muzzle flare look like, you may ask? Well, it looks like a flashing object every time a gun shoots, like a flashing point at the end of the gun when it shoots a bullet, and that it flashes. So we're gonna have to create that muzzle flare model. So, for any muzzle flares, you can model them however you want. So, but for me, I'm just going to use an icosphere, and we can go into edit mode. Again, you can create any muzzle flare however you want. I'm just showing the way of how I do it, so that you can get or understand how I do it and what is a muzzle flare. But yeah, anyways, we're gonna create a muzzle flare. This is my own way. You can have your very own way if you like, but for this case, we're just gonna do this example of my own muzzle flare. So what I did is I used the icosphere. I went to vertice mode and clicked on the vertices and spike out of the front, so it looks like a bunch of bullets or flashing something just go out in all places. Okay, and this looks good enough. And we go into material, and we go into emission. Because if you don't have an emission, then your muzzle flare will not light up. Obviously, you can go around either 5 or 6 and have a little bit of a yellow color because it's a gun. You can preview it right here. Doesn't look too yellow. Go ahead and put it more yellow. And that's much better. Maybe a bit more. Okay, you got your muzzle flare. Now, important. In order for the muzzle flare to work, we're gonna have to move the origin point. The origin point is the little orange dot you see right here. What does the orange dot do? Well, basically, whenever you move something or scale something or rotate something, it kind of does it in its own origin. Like when I scale right here, it goes in and out and in and out right here, like so. Rotate right here. Why is this important? Because when your gun is shooting, if we'll just put this real quick, it's going to look like, and you put it right here, the muzzle flare isn't going to like work properly if it's like this, which we'll get to in a second. So it's important if you move the origin point somewhere else. To do this, you just click a cursor anywhere, select a cursor, or Shift S to select a cursor. Go into Edit, Operator Search, type in Set Origin. For me, I had no idea where the Set Origin button is in any of the Blender windows. So the quickest way for me to find it is just go into the search bar and find it. And we see a set origin. We set the origin to 3D cursor. Click on that. Oh, my bad. Move the muzzle flare onto the edge, the tip, where you see the cursor is on the edge right here. Then you set origin to 3D cursor. Sorry about that, I didn't do it yet. Now, as you can see, the muzzle flare shrinks and grows into that exact spot instead of in the center right here. But yeah, just gonna recap what I did. So you move the muzzle flare into like a cursor or something. You move it. You move the muzzle flare until the edge, like this tip right here, on this one. You move the muzzle flare until the cursor is at where the muzzle flare is going to come out. In case is right here. You go into Edit, Operator Search, Set Origin, Origin to 3D Cursor. There you go. Now you can bring your muzzle flare to your model to gun, and there you go. Now you have a muzzle flare with bullets coming out and all. Well, not really bullets, but just a muzzle flare indication that there are bullets. Alright, now the rigging part. It's important that you really pay attention to this, otherwise you'll get lost. So, we bring our cursor here to where the grip is, or in here or whatever. You Shift A and append an armature. Armatures are usually made for rigs, for, you know, bones. But for in this case, we're just going to do them for guns. So we're just going to drag the bone right here. And as you can see, we can't really see the bone anywhere. It's inside the gun. And to make it see-through, go into Object Settings, go to Viewport Display, click in front. Now you can see that the bone is in X-ray mode. So make sure you just scale it to the optimal size and size it to appropriate locations and whatnot, like so. Then you go into, actually, make sure that the bone is aligned, which it is. Then you go into Edit mode, and now we're going to duplicate the bone. But as you can see, we selected like a end of a bone. If we Shift D right now, it's not going to work, because you need to like select the entire bone by clicking on the middle area of the bone, which I did right here. So Shift click right here, you select the entire bone, Shift right here, and it doesn't do anything. Actually it does, but it extrudes another bone. But this is not what we want. We're going to get rid of that. we want to select an entire bone so that it gets duplicated away from this bone instead of just being extruded right here, which we do not want. Actually, I pressed E and extruded it, but we're not going to do that. That's for like more advanced rigging. But yeah, if you click any of these ends, it won't seem to do anything. Well, you saw earlier that it selects the entire bone. I guess that works too. But mainly, you're going to have to click on the main area of the bone and then duplicate it. And make sure it's aligned. This bone will be where it controls when the muzzle flare will shoot out or not. This will be the grip of what the character is going to hold. For objects, they're going to have different, like, depending on how you model the gun, it's going to have like different origin points, either right here or here or there. I mean, of course, you can change the origin point somewhere else, it's fine. But it's probably better if you made a bone for the grip, so that you know where the character will hold the gun. Anyway, let's go back into edit mode. Actually, probably not. We make sure everything is alright. We'll switch this armature bone, gun armature, into pose mode. Okay, let me explain something real quick. So when an armature is in object mode, it's basically selected as in one group. As you can see, you can't like split up or anything. For pose mode, you can, because it's in pose mode, but let's not worry about that right now. Basically, in pose mode, you can move freely, and it's like open for posing stuff. Well, that's for basic principles of a character rig. Anyway, so yeah, leave the gun armature in pose mode for now. Click on your modeled muzzle flare. Go onto the side of object settings, and right-click scale X, Y, or Z. Either one would do. Right-click it. Press Add Driver. You just shake that off. We'll worry about that later. And do that for every scale thing right here until you see all this section is entirely in purple. Don't add drivers to the rest of these. We only want them for scale. Right click them again and open Drivers Editor. This will open up a new window of Blender, and this is where we're gonna properly rig the muzzle flare to work. And as you can see, it looks pretty imitating already, but don't worry. All we're gonna do is put in some of the settings right here. You don't need to worry about the tabs, but we're gonna put in all the settings for each of these scales. So whenever you're gonna change anything, whenever you're gonna change anything in here, it's gonna change the object in here. But don't worry about it, because you're just don't worry about it, because when you're done, it'll work properly. Alright. But yes, when you change anything in here, it'll change the object right here, which we'll see in a minute. And it's very important you pay attention to what I'm doing here so that you don't mess up and get lost and that your muzzle flares won't work. So yeah, pay attention if you want your muzzle flares to work properly. Anyway, let's just move this right here so you can see it changing. Anyways, we'll start with X scale. Now you're going to do this on every single one, X, Y, and Z scale. So go to Type, click Scripted Expression, change to Average Value. Then go into Object, click on the armature which is appended. If you don't know where, this is the armature we're talking about, which is says over here, and this is the part, and this is the armature that we are using the gun for. Right click on that. Oh yeah, if you click anywhere else, Like if you click on the muzzle flare, you click on something else, it will not show up. So make sure you click on the muzzle flare if you want to get back to it. Anyway, so we changed the type to average value. Well, from scripted expression to average value, which is right here. We go to armature, and to the bone, we want the bone to be the bone where we could control the muzzle flare, which is bone 1. This is bone 1 right here. Click on the muzzle flare again, sorry. Then change the type from X location to Y location, and space from world space to local space. Now you're going to do these now you're going to do all of these the same thing for Y and Z. So let's do it. So average value, armature, bone 1, Y location, world space. If you see like a red box in here, just click on average value. Just click on average value again, it'll go away. Don't worry about it. Let's do this again for Z scale, average value, armature, bone 1, Y location, local space. Click on average value again to make it go away. Now you see that the muzzle flare is gone, but it's not, because when we move this bone right now, we can see it works. See? Pew, 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 pew. Congratulations. You got your working muzzle flare. But it's not over yet. Sometimes you can't really tell how big a muzzle flare should be or small. You don't want like this bone to like go outwards and having the muzzle flare being too big like that. So you don't want to approximate so much when a muzzle flare should be big when it shoots. You might also don't want like bones to be like loose. I guess you can see it's like broken off. It's not holding right. You can't really rotate with the gun in pose mode at all. So what we're gonna do is click on this bone where it controls the muzzle flare. Go right here to bone constraints. Add bone constraint, limit location, change world space to local space. Click on these, click on minimum and maximum in the middle column, and change the maximum, like just click it like once forward or once or forward two until the muzzle flare does not, shoot out more. Alright, you got your muzzle flare stopping at the exact points, so that you don't have to stop at an exact other point. You can just shoot out the straight, to the bottom, straight, and back. Because it stops the bone from going from one place to another, so that your muzzle flare is where it's supposed to be. But as you can see, it's still being moving all over the place. So you're just gonna have to click on both of these, so it does not. And there we go. It's stuck in place as it should be. Now we're gonna append the bone to the grip bone. So go into edit mode of the bone. So we got this selected. Right click on this bone. Control P to make a parent, and keep offset. Now, go back out of pose mode. Now, these bones are connected, but the rest is not. So, easy peasy. You just click on their modeled gun, right click the grip bone, Control P, set parent to bone, click out of it and all, whatever. Now the gun is attached, but the muzzle flare is not. Do the same thing for the muzzle flare. Append it to the grip bone. Control P, set parent to bone. Now if you move right now, there we go. It is all in place. You can just shrink this back down. the gun will still be in place, like so. Alright, last thing before we end this tutorial, and I'll show you some examples. Oh. Okay. This muzzle flare seems to be a bit flat. I think I made an error of it. Oh. Okay. Alright. It didn't change this from web location. Now it's okay. Yeah. That was my mistake right there. But once again, just be sure that X, Y, and Z scale have all of these settings. The only settings you need to change are the average value, the object, the bone, the type, and space. Yeah, but yeah, basically you just keep all these settings for all three of these. Make sure these settings are all the same right here, which they are. So yeah, you can close that out now. But yeah, we got our working muzzle flare gun, or gun with a muzzle flare. As I was saying, one last thing before we end this tutorial, it is important to name your objects so that you know what to append when you're putting it into your scenes. So let's start by naming the muzzle flare. So we're just going to name this from icosphere, or go into the object settings, go up here to where it says icosphere, click on that, and name it to well, gun muzzle flare. You're gonna have to name the gun of wherever the name of the gun is. Whatever the name of the gun is, it has to be like first up front. So let's say this is a gun. So you name a gun, then anything after that, except for the object itself. You can just like name it gun, and that's it. What I'm saying is make sure every object that's part of this gun, you have the name of the gun put at the first of the text box name. So like it's gun muzzle flare. You're going to have to name these bones too. So let's name this from bone 1 to gun muzzle flare bone. You name this from bone to gun grip bone. You can put the armature from pose mode to object mode. You can name this gun bones. And the armature itself. You click down here where it looks like an action figure. You go here. You just put gun. It's all. But yes, it is important to name your objects of what they are. So let's see, you have like gun muzzle flare, normal gun bones. You got the gun bones, name of the bones here. For the armature, when you name this gun bones in the object settings, make sure you name this gun armature in armature settings, which it looks like an action figure right here. And there you go. That is how you make and rig guns. So hopefully this tutorial doesn't get you mixed up, but you can now use these in your scenes. So let's just animate it real quick. Just keyframe it. Oh, that's wrong one. Okay, you got your well-working gun with a muzzle flare, and that your guns can now shoot. Anyway, but yeah, that's how you make a gun. But you don't really, this way of making guns doesn't have to necessarily be for guns only. This method of doing this can be used for something else. So I have another Blender file, which there will be example. Yeah, I have a Blender file that I'll be showing you in a bit that has some assets that I have made using this method of making the guns. So we'll just open the file real quick. Alright, so here are the assets that I've made myself that are not public, except for some assets. Anyways, these are some of the assets I've made that I've used the same thing for making the gun. So right here we got our pistol right here that I've made. So as you can see, there's an extra button right here, which I'll show you how I did it. So let's just set it to post mode. As you can see, it does have a muzzle flare right here. Well, it's a laser gun, so yeah, here's a muzzle flare right here, and here is like a holographic scope. And this one I used the same way as I did for making the gun and muzzle flare. Like I said, this method of making guns doesn't necessarily have to be made only for guns. You can use it for anything else, like the holographic scope right here. So as you can see, it is kind of the same way as the muzzle flare. You can just like pull this up and that'll be it. You don't need to like make it shoot, obviously. But this one you can be only to shoot. I also used it for actually for this one is also I also have to be careful where the origin point is, so that since this holographic scope comes from the bottom right here, because the origin point is right here. If it's like in the center, then the scope will only open up from the center right here. Alright, anyways, I also did it for the holographic shield of the Praetor. So we pulled this bone right here, and there we go. We got the shield. Or if you like, if you want your objects grow out of where it's supposed to be, just be sure you put the origin point to where it is. But for here, I want the shield to like be stretched out from this origin point, so the origin point is right here. But yeah, this same method of making the guns can be used for shields like these. So it's like a shield right here. These can be also the method can be also used for weapons, like melee weapons. This is the Monado from Xenoblade Chronicles, held by Shulk, or at least the sword you see Shulk hold in Smash. As you can see, is the muzzle flare, the quote-unquote muzzle flare, is in a different model. So this is like the beam blade itself, just like what Shulk has with the sword. So same thing. It's kind of like shooty, except it's not. You also got the Crucible from Doom Eternal. You got this bone right here. Object point post mode. You pull this up, and you have the blade itself. You have a creature right here that I did, and it's in full body armature, which I won't teach in this tutorial because it's all about making guns. But as you can see, I also did this for its shield. Oh, click on this. I also did for its shield, like so. Like I said, doesn't have to be necessarily made for guns only. It can be made for anything else. And that's all for the examples I have used with Jarvis method thing. But yes, you just basically do the same thing as you did with the muzzle flare when rigging it, and use it for anything else like the shield and the blade and the holographic scope right here. So that's that. That's it for my rigging gun tutorial. I hope this tutorial finds helpful to you for some people that want to make guns and want the guns to actually work. If you run into any problems, you can comment down below or join my Discord server so I can help you out with the situations and help and support. So that's that. I am RedBlue115, and I'll see you